Welcome back. All right, continuing my look at teams this offseason, we're going to talk about the Seattle Kraken today. A team which has made the playoffs once in their existence, looking to make it twice. Have they done enough? I think the argument could be made that they're closer. I don't know if they've done enough yet to qualify as a playoff team in the very competitive West. And I don't say that as if the East isn't competitive, just as difficult to make the playoffs in the NHL these days. So, looking at their lineup, they can roll four lines, and that's key. This is absolutely a team that can roll four lines. I don't know if there's any of the four lines, though, that really would scare the top teams in the West, and that's definitely something we'll see. So, looking at this lineup, and again, I'll go from left to right, and we'll talk about the defense, the goaltending, we'll talk about the depth and everything. Jaden Schwartz. First line on the left wing, and at least in all likelihood, I got these lines again from Daily Faceoff. $5.5 million cap hit for Jaden Schwartz for one more year, so I wore his jersey for this video. You never know, might be his last year in Seattle, right? 81 games, 26 goals, 23 assists for 49 points. Schwartz, good player, very consistent, reliable, and as long as he's healthy, that's important. Jared McCann has a $5 million cap hit till 2027. I've heard his name in trade rumors here and there. I don't know if you're Seattle, if moving McCann is necessarily... I don't know. I'd have to see what they'd get back for him, but I don't know that I would personally move McCann. 82 games this past season, 22 goals, 39 assists, 61 points. 60 to 65 points, I think those are reachable totals for him yet again. Now, Mason Marchment is an addition, of course, from Dallas. $4.5 million cap hit for Marchment for one more year. 62 games played this past season with Dallas, 22 goals, 25 assists, 47 points. The one thing with Marchment to keep in mind is he does take penalties. He does his best to draw penalties too, and it works at times, but he does take penalties, so Seattle's going to have to be aware of that at all times. But he's a sandpaper guy and pretty popular with his teammates anywhere he's played. Cartier. Cartier is one of those players that I think could experience a growth in their scoring this year for Seattle. I just didn't have him on that top 20 list I did yesterday. He would have been an honorable mention if I'd done honorable mentions. But Cartier and Marchment, both players play a very similar game. Cartier, I think there's more offense there. We'll see what happens this year. Matty Beniers, $7.14 million cap hit until 2031. Beniers, 82 games, 20 goals, 23 assists, 43 points. I think they want some more points from him, maybe a little bit more selfishness in his play. He's a good defensive forward, though, and Beniers is one of the faces of this team going forward. Chandler Stevenson, $6.25 million cap hit till 2031. There are people who don't think that's a great cap hit for that long. But 78 games for Stevenson this past season, 13 goals, 38 assists, 51 points. He did struggle at times. Other times he looked pretty good out there. We'll see if his goal totals get back into the 20-goal range this season. Shane Wright, and yeah, I had him on the breakthrough video I did yesterday. I had him in last year's as well, but he had a good year this year. 79 games, 19 goals, 25 assists, 44 points. So I feel like this past season he showed what he can do, and there's still a lot more there. So, yeah, I think he could hit the 60-point mark. One of the things is if he does do that, it may bump Stevenson down to the third-line role, depending on whether or not Wright's still in the middle, because you just never know, right? And I didn't mean to use Wright there because we're talking about Shane Wright, and that could get confusing. Freddie Gaudreau's been added. Now, he had good totals with Minnesota. I don't expect him to repeat them in Seattle. 82 games, 18 goals, 19 assists, 37 points. I'll pick that up later. But Freddie Gaudreau, very competitive forward. Honest effort every night. And even if he doesn't score 18 goals, he's still a very useful bottom six player. And I think Seattle fans will like Gaudreau just fine. Then you get to the right side, and Kaapo Kakko, who's currently a restricted free agent. In 49 games with Seattle, he had 10 goals, 20 assists, 30 points. I wasn't as impressed with Kakko in Seattle as I know some might have been. I do think that they need some more out of him. I know he had 30 points in 49 games. I just don't know if going forward... I don't know going forward how big a role he's going to have with the team. We'll find out. And maybe whatever his contract ends up being will tell us what they envision for him. Is it going to be a long-term deal because they think he's got a lot of growth potential, or do they go with a short-term deal and risk that in 2 or 3 years' time he's going to get a pretty big raise because the salary cap's going up by a lot? So there are some questions there with Kakko, but I mean, that's basically been the story of his career, hasn't it? Eberle, $4.75 million cap hit for one more year. 42 games this past season, 9 goals, 17 assists, 26 points. And it goes without saying, got to stay healthy, right? But Eberle, good veteran forward. But it is an interesting issue that Seattle finds themselves with, that there's so many players on expiring contracts. So in the event that Seattle's not really in the playoff hunt, they could be very active this season. Tolvanen, $3.48 million cap hit for Tolvanen for one more year. He's an unrestricted free agent next summer too. So Tolvanen, who's been a good top 9 forward, solid pickup for Seattle. I do wonder if with some of the additions made and the way the lineup is, if at some point soon, if Eeli Tolvanen ends up becoming available. And then you got Newman likely on that fourth line as well. You've got for depth up front, you've got Hayden, you've got Stevens. Hayden, of course, there for toughness, that grit. Winterton, who hasn't looked bad in call-ups. Myers and Melanson as well up front. So there's some decent depth. I just don't know if there's a star go-to forward for Seattle. And that is, I think, one part that they need to figure out is having that star go-to forward. Maybe it becomes Beniers. Maybe Wright emerges in that role soon. And I guess you can throw Kakko's name out there, but we'll see what ends up happening. It just feels like Seattle doesn't quite have that star power that you need to make the playoffs in terms of that one player you can kind of rally around and count on. Now, on the blue line, it's a good group. It is. This is a good team. I just don't know if they're playoff good. Vince Dunn, 62 games this past season, 11 goals, 28 assists for 39 points. He has a $7.35 million cap hit until 2027. So he's going to get paid in 2027 because the salary cap will be $113 million at that point. So, yeah. Vince Dunn's been a really solid blue liner for them, and I like his game, and I think that cap hit's perfectly fine. They've, of course, got Adam Larsson on that top pairing as well. You know what you're getting with Larsson, just like you know what you're getting with Alexiak. He's on an expiring contract as well, $4.6 million cap hit, and he's due next summer. So Jamie Alexiak, you can add his name to the list of players in Seattle that, if this team doesn't stay in the hunt, could be on the move. They could be a popular target. Montour has a $7.14 million cap hit until 2031. 81 games played by Montour in his first year in Seattle. 18 goals, 23 assists, 41 points. So the goals, as advertised, they probably want a few more points from Montour, but honestly, it was a good season for him in Seattle. Ryan Lindgren, good, quiet addition here. $4.5 million cap hit till 2029 for Ryan Lindgren. I've been a Lindgren fan for a long time. I also say, yeah, he didn't have a great season this past season in New York and then in Colorado, but I do think he was better in Colorado than he was with the Rangers, and I think that a move to Seattle could benefit him greatly. So I've got my fingers crossed for Lindgren on this one. And Riker Evans is a restricted free agent. So while they have over $11 million in cap space, Evans and Kakko are going to eat up a healthy portion of that. So they're not really in a position to add a big name or a big contract. So that might be why McCann's name's out there. That you'd move McCann and then have more room to bring somebody else in. But they're going to be an interesting team to watch. And Riker Evans, if he's on that third pairing, maybe that limits his totals at least a little bit offensively. But he had a very good season this past year for Seattle. Joey Decord. So we'll get into goaltending. Actually, before we do that, the depth on the defense, they did keep Mahura. Good move. Mahura is a perfect number 7 defenseman. Cale Fleury and Ottavainen also there for depth on their blue line. So not a bad blue line. And that's the thing. They're not a bad team. Seattle's a good team. It is just still that question of, but are they going to be good enough to reach the playoffs? The goaltending could go a long way to deciding whether or not they are. Joey Decord had a good year. 27, 23, and 5 record. 906 save percentage. $5 million cap hit until 2030. That's absolutely reasonable for Decord, and it's been great to watch him grow. He has grown slowly but surely into this role with Seattle. Grubauer, on the other hand, had another down year. He has 2 more years left in his contract and a $5.9 million cap hit. I would imagine that if Seattle was shopping Grubauer, that would be a very difficult contract to move. So I think it makes sense for them not to want to buy out Grubauer's contract and end up with 4 years of a cap penalty. And it might be easier just to say, yeah, we're going to try to help him get his game together, and we believe in him. 8-17-1 record for him this past season, 875 save percentage. And it is part of the reason why Seattle wasn't any closer to the playoff picture than they were. And so Grubauer needs to get that together. Now, interestingly enough, they do have Matt Murray that they recently signed in the minors. And yes, it is the Matt Murray who won 2 Stanley Cups in Pittsburgh. So I guess you could qualify that as an option, right? Matt Murray, maybe he's an option. Maybe if Grubauer has another rough start to the season, maybe Matt Murray would make some sense as the backup. But Seattle did try some guys out, and maybe we'll see one of the other goaltenders end up jumping in there if Grubauer has a problem. But that is going to be a big part of it for Seattle, is making sure their defense keeps the puck away from the goaltenders, and when the goaltenders have that puck or have a chance to stop it, they're able to do that. So it is going to be interesting to see what else Seattle does this summer. It doesn't feel like there's a lot of other changes coming. So this roster may be very close to what we end up seeing this fall. So that's the question I have, is even though, yes, we've got a new coach with Lane Lambert, and we have a new general manager with Jason Botterill, although does Ron Francis give him full autonomy? Does Francis have say in things? I would think Botterill has a pretty good level of say, and that he's pretty much on his own. But Lane Lambert as coach is an interesting hire, and we'll see what it does for Seattle this year. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you expect from Seattle this season? Do you think they're going to stay in the picture for later, or till later in the season? That sounds better. And do you think maybe they can end up making it into the playoffs? They have a chance. I just don't know with this roster if I think that's going to happen. But let me know your thoughts. Hit like and subscribe in the event you may not have done so already. Thank you guys so much for all your support as always. I will talk to you again soon.